According to my daughter, I am no longer a child.
You made it.
Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. I had a team practice today, so that's always a good day. Anytime on the bike with kids, I like it.
Nice.
Yep.
And Chelle, how was your birthday?
According to my daughter, I am no longer a child.
You made it. Excellent.
And it was good. Just like every other day. I worked on NICA.
Well, happy birthday, Chelle.
Thank you.
So, welcome to the podcast. We are taping this on Sunday, February 4th. And so everything that we say may or may not be outdated by the time that you hear it. But we've got a lot of stuff to share. I think, kind of.
Hey there. I just wanted to break in right quick and say thank you for checking out our video. And if you aren't a subscriber, we would super appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button. That will help us spread the word about what we do. It makes us stoked that you're checking us out, and we could use all the help we can getting more kids on bikes in North Carolina. Now back to the show.
I don't know. We're getting into, I think, the best part of the season where we've got that buildup that's been happening slowly, and now we're starting to see things happen. We're closing in on what? We're 4 weeks from the first race.
I think the anticipation is building, and I get a sense of that, Shawn, mainly because of the emails I get, like, "Hey, what's going on with Browns Creek?" And I realize I am behind the information power curve. So yes, I'm looking forward to this podcast, to getting out kind of what I know that's going on. And I think, when I decided to call this the Choose Your Own Adventure season, little did I realize I was choosing an adventure for myself for implementing some changes for this league that has taken us a little bit of time to put together, which is why we still don't have everything we'd like out about Browns Creek and some of the events. But we'll talk about that. This is good format to chat about the thing with folks.
And I think that's a good place for us to start. So let's first start off that you, in conjunction with your new best friend, Google Bard, have come up with event names. And then I think in concert with a lot of people behind the scenes, there are themes that go along with our event names. And the very first one is for Browns Creek, and that's going to be Crankin at the Creek. And the theme is going to be...
because we're so close to the coast, Shawn, we couldn't not call it Beach Bash. And everyone that's been to Browns Creek knows there's a little bit of sand out there. So, unfortunately, I think we put Chelle, I think we put like the grit and programs area up in that sand pit, and we won't do that.
I hoard the sand and the sand spurs.
Yeah. So it's got a beachy vibe to it, and let's not necessarily talk about weather, but maybe 60 degrees like it was last season at Browns Creek. That was pretty awesome early on. So, board shorts and I don't know, Hawaiian shirt and big, floppy hat or something. We'll see what my costume becomes for Browns Creek.
Gotcha. And not just that, but new for this year also, we are doing race course video previews. And so at the end of this podcast, we'll actually have a link to the Browns Creek video preview if you haven't already seen it. But Brian, you did that first one. You did a first person point of view video of the entire new course. That is a new course at Browns Creek this year. So that's a really interesting way for people to kind of take a look at what's in store at these races. And I appreciate you, kind of jumping on the video of that. But it's definitely something people should check out.
Well, a lot of these things are related, and let me give a lot of kudos to folks across this league, particularly on the staff, that are putting a lot of these new things together. And so part of that change of a race course at Browns Creek, people might ask, well, why change the course at Browns Creek? Well, one, we've been doing the same course for a while. And I do think I hear from student athletes, coaches, and parents like, hey, the same old thing, like, can we mix it up? So I think we're going to mix it up. But one of the other reasons is oh gosh, we were out there in December for one of our preseason adventure events. There's like 17 miles of trail out there at Browns Creek. And so this reroute of the race course basically frees up, I call it like one half of Browns Creek, and we will set up an adventure ride at Browns Creek. So in addition to course preview on Saturday, coaches can take their kids on another section of Browns Creek and just go for a ride that day if they want. So that necessitated, new course. But like you said, Shawn, I think, it's hard for those teams in Asheville to maybe travel 6 hours to do Browns Creek in advance for a weekend. And, a lot of people in this state have to travel a decent way. So what are the ways we can kind of get some information in advance? And I think the video is a good way to do that. And so, yeah, we'll attempt to do that for every single race course this season. And we've already got Salisbury kind of spliced together even this weekend. Thanks to Bent Harbor, who went out over the weekend to take a look at Salisbury.
And I think it's important to kind of talk here and interject this after you said there's going to be this adventure ride course set up at Browns Creek, that at every one of our venues, there will be both adventure and TTC activities that are taking place in addition to the race. And that's something that's kind of important to let people know that there is a lot going on the weekend. And it's also important for them to understand that it's this sort of full weekend programming that has really necessitated us taking a hard look at how we do fees and registration, and really saying that every student athlete who comes to the event, whether or not they're racing, is not particularly the key factor. But if they're participating in the weekend as a whole, then that necessitates registration. So anything involving TTC, adventure, any of the activities that are going on Saturday or Sunday, that all student athletes will need to be registered for the weekend. But want to make sure that people understand that there is a lot of bang for your buck at these weekends.
Yeah, we've been trying really hard to program in, pun or word intended, more activities at our weekend events. And this might be a good time, Shawn, to have Chelle maybe walk through what's in store for the season. Chelle, you mind walking us through kind of what folks can expect in addition to the race out there?
Sure. So we'll have, like Shawn said, the adventure area, and we're gonna have a teen trail core area at every event or weekend, as long as or as well as the grit tent with the activities that we usually have there. At the adventure area, we'll have ramps, skinnies, bike games, skills courses. We'll have yard games, a little something for everybody. And we'll also have on the hour every hour throughout the day support for student athletes who would like some help or an opportunity to stamp some of the activities in their passports. So on each event flyer, we'll have information on what activities are going on in these areas. So if you want to take a look at what passport activity we're going to be helping student athletes stamp, if you've got some student athletes who need some of those particular activities stamped, or you may not have the time to do them all as a team, that's a good opportunity for them to get those stamped. And they can get those stamped at that adventure tent as well while they're there. So that'll be there for every event weekend. Our Teen Trail Corps committee's got some really fun stuff planned. They'll have some activities and games. And what were our hype sticks are now our Stoke sticks will also be at the Teen Trail Corps tent that everyone can sign and color on. So make them fun, colorful to give them away the next day to the teams that are showing up and showing a lot of support for everybody on race day. And then grit, we'll have the grit pre-ride, of course. And our senior ambassadors have been working really hard on putting together some really fun activities as their projects this year. So really looking forward to that. Then at select venues, we will have an adventure ride. And at other venues, we will have a hands-on trail work opportunity led by our Teen Trail Corps committee. So lots going on. Definitely something for everybody, whether you race or not. So should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you and all the committees thinking that through and incorporating that into what's already a pretty busy weekend for everyone, and kudos to the entire staff for working that through. I think right now, Chelle, just to give folks a preview, and I'm pretty sure we had this in the Single Track Times, but it looks like we walk across the season, Browns Creek Adventure Ride, in addition to the normal adventure zone, Salisbury a Teen Trail Corps work activity, no adventure ride. Up at Danville, a lot of trail up there, adventure ride opportunity. And then when we're out at Mayodan, a Teen Trail Corps work activity. And then probably a combo of both out at Fletcher, meet and ride with the trail builder who helped build the trail at Fletcher, which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, job well done to everyone trying to work those in this season.
Thanks. And as in case we didn't have enough planned, we've got evening activities planned for every single event weekend except for Browns Creek. Just because Browns Creek can be a beast with our first event of the season and working out all the kinks. So everything from Salisbury on will have an event activity. There's a couple that are just grit and then some that are open to everybody. The registrations in pit zone for those is free, included for anybody that's registered for the weekend. But you do need to register in pit zone for those. But we'll have movie nights, a glow party, blacklight showdown, games that Shawn is going to help me with. So there's lots of fun stuff going on all day, every day. So if you're camping, your student athletes will have some fun stuff to take part in then too.
I'm trusting that your games stay true to the way they always have been, which is they sound incredibly complex and complicated until you actually start playing them. And then you're like, oh, this is actually pretty simple. But honestly, Brian, I'm a little concerned because you missed the perfect opportunity to work in the theme names of our events while you were describing what was going on. So we've got not just Salisbury, but it's the Salisbury Scramble. And it's not just Danville, it's the Danville Dash. We've got Mayhem at Mayodan, which I know that was probably straight out of your brain with no help from any AI at all. And then the 5-string Stampede, which I'm still very curious about what that's even all about, but we're going to go with it. So those are the kind of the event names that we've got cooking, and there will be more to come about the themes that go along with each of those. We've also got new for this
Fletcher's
year.
pretty
What?
cool. I'll reveal. I'll do the great reveal
Okay.
on Fletcher. I know everyone's like, "Where's Fletcher? Where's the venue?" And we put the location out. Like it's map spot. The entrance to that venue is out there, so you know where you're going. But the owner of that property where we're racing, they big bluegrass fans. So 5-string refers to banjo, and they actually have a company, 5-string LLC. And so the reason we named it Stampede was because the theme for that one is Wild West. We're out in the West, first time as a league, venue out the West. So we'll call it Wild West, and we just thought 5-string Stampede kind of fit in there. So there you go. There's the big reveal.
All right. That's a story. I understand that one now. A couple other new things that we've got going on this year are going to be Podium socks from Ridge Supply. Our league sponsor, Ridge Supply, will be doing a special sock that you can only get if you make it on the podium. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Matt Hawkins put that out on his social media over the weekend, so everyone get a good preview of that podium sock. Got black and white checkers along the cuff, matches our season theme, the design theme this season. Pretty cool. Just looking for ways to make, again, a racing program a little more exciting and different as well. So, yep, podium socks for anyone who gets on the podium this season.
And also, we're working on live results. So, kind of elaborate on that. Does that mean live results just for the finishes, or are we talking about like live results during the race of like current standings and that sort of thing?
So the intent is the latter, both essentially. But yes, the ability for a coach, a parent, grandma in Wisconsin to watch Jimmy or Jenny come across the finish mat each time, and as best we can, there are some limitations to our venues in terms of cellular service, and a lot of people know that. Probably Mayodan just popped in everyone's head because you walk to the top of Camping Hill with your cell phone, outstretched to try and get cell service. But we'll put track boxes in the woods, so you could actually see your rider go through the track boxes along the course. So I think that's one, Shawn, good coaching, like coaches, where am I? How are they doing on their splits? All that type of thing. But again, just from a spectator perspective, we know we're limited in some of our venues to get out into the woods. Let's see where the kids are. So we're working towards that. That's the goal. It is, turning on that feature in race results, but because we have internet access as a league this year for our staff to beam that stuff out, we're going to beam that stuff out for sure.
Awesome. that I think is going to be huge. The ability to kind of see where the kids are at on course will be a major step forward for us. And then last but not least, camping and volunteer registrations are going to go to the home teams first and then the league. So those home teams that are sort of getting the first crack at not just volunteering, they're also getting the first crack at camping. And that's sort of the reward for taking on the burden or the task, the role of being out there volunteering. And we really want to see home teams stepping up. We've got that sort of rivalry of teams trying to get the most volunteer hours, which is really cool. And we want to encourage that. And so giving these home teams that first shot for their race that they're designated as a home team for is huge. So definitely be on the lookout for those things coming out from head coaches and team directors.
Yeah, last season we were about the 30-day mark for both of those in advance of the weekend, and that's probably what will follow this season. And I agree with you, Shawn. The idea is give the home teams the first opportunity at the camping spots because, yeah, if you can come out on Friday and volunteer or Saturday morning, and that's awesome. You know, the earlier we get set up Friday, Saturday morning, the better everyone's experience is. So absolutely an incentive. I will say as soon as I can get the camping registration set up in TeamSnap, and we are using TeamSnap this season for camping registrations, I will push those out to the home teams as soon as they are ready. So I won't wait till the 30-day mark. I know people have been waiting on camping reservations. I'll push those as soon as they're ready. Browns Creek is already out to the home teams. It will go live to the league this week for camping at Browns Creek. And so camping I'll do as soon as I can. Volunteers probably 30 days out to home teams and a week or two later to the rest of the league. Browns Creek is probably a day or two out from getting pushed out to home teams. So thanks to Diane LeBlanc, Jenny Wood working on Sign Up Genius is our new platform. A little more user friendly, certainly for our end. We hope for the users end as well, but we're going to use Sign Up Genius, and I think we're close to getting Browns Creek up this week.
Related to
Awesome.
volunteers, throw in there that since programs volunteers have to be coaches anyways, our committee members we've got now, they're a wealth of information. So if you have a teen trail core coach, an adventure coach, or great coach on your team that's got any time to fill one of those spots, gain some volunteer hours for your team, but also great opportunity to ask some really knowledgeable folks any questions you have about ideas of how to fill that role. I know Shawn, your wife Golden, our adventure coordinator, is going to be in the adventure area, and she's a wealth of knowledge on how to plan adventure rides and make them fun. So if you've got a coach on your team that stepped up in that role and would like some ideas or somebody just to bounce ideas off them, they're there and they would love to talk to you. And for Teen Trail Corps volunteers, for every hour you volunteer at the Teen Trail Corps tent, you'll earn an hour of Teen Trail Corps for your team. So
That's a good teaser, I guess. We are in the midst of planning an adventure ride with a bunch of teams from the Charlotte area and here that will be a big multi-team adventure ride in Wilson's Creek. And we're going to be making a video kind of walking through the process of this. We're doing a big meeting with a bunch of head coaches via Zoom. And so we'll be putting together kind of that and releasing that as a way of kind of showing our process. And, you know, hopefully people can gain something from it, maybe learn what to do or maybe what not to do. Like maybe we're not doing it the best way, but we're trying to be as thorough as possible and trying to be very transparent so that we can share that with others. So that be on the lookout for that coming soon. Another new thing we've got for this year is going to be composite team scoring. And that's something that we talked about on a coaches call recently. Those teams that are affected, they've gotten a spreadsheet that they're working on. Many teams have already finished their scoring splits, but we want to kind of let everyone know what this is all about. So NICA has a rule about the maximum size of composite teams, and the maximum size of composite team is 11, and that's independent of what level they are. So high school maximum of 11, middle school maximum of 11, not combined. And we have some very large composite teams. And Brian, you and I have been kind of talking back and forth for the better part of your time as league director, which is going on our second season. And I had been talking with kind of the previous people that were in charge, and really trying to come up with a way that felt easily doable and that didn't damage the character of these composite teams, because they're very protective of their team kind of identity and their team culture, and rightfully so. That's what we want to see. And so I think we've come up with a really good way of doing this, and that is that it's done in the back end for the scoring in races. And what we're doing is sort of looking at, if you've got 5 student athletes on a composite team that come from one single school or homeschool, then they're automatically split off as a separate scoring unit within the scoring system of the race. And then if it's still too big, if that split doesn't lower the number enough, then we have to start looking at another way of splitting. And that is based on geographic region of schools, like something that is just about like, these kids from these areas are going to be on this scoring unit, and these kids from these areas are going to be on this scoring unit. We can't have teams that are built around like, well, these 4 are our fastest and they're going to be on this team kind of thing. It's very independent of that. So it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not a student athlete is going to race. It's strictly school of attendance, location, and area that school is at, and then splitting them off from there. Brian, do you have anything you want to add about that? Because this has been a big issue.
I think you covered it very, very well, Shawn. And I know part of our conversation here is kind of a teaser for February's coaches call, where we'll go through in a little more detail. We just want to get the topic on the table. I guess from my view, like you said, when I first came in, I looked at it. You got to ask yourself some questions every now and then as you evaluate your organization. Is it important to follow rules or not? Okay, well, there's a rule here that this league had not been paying attention to for a while. So let's take a look at that and what are the ways to go forward. The other data point is the path to growth for us is, in fact, team growth. Like that's the NICA model, NICA path, and the data bears that out. But what is that? I think the way you said it in the last coach's call, Shawn, was very good. Is like, I want to get away with the terminology of breaking up composites or blowing up composites. It's like, let's enable composites to break out a team when it's right for them to do so. So let's group kids together. They can race and score together. Maybe there's a culture that forms around that and it breaks off. And that's the right time to establish a new team and buy new jerseys. But this model, you're not buying new jerseys. You're embracing the culture that a lot of our great composites have built. So we're going to give it a shot. Let's see how that goes. I think it's a good step forward towards abiding by the policy that NICA sets out for us.
And we're also sort of providing a more level playing field for scoring. That's one of the things that the NICA handbook addresses, and it specifically states that these policies are about not having a super team. And a super team can just be sheer numbers. So, the difference between the ability of a team, let's say, that has 40 student athletes on it, as opposed to a team that has 8, is pretty vast. It's very likely that of those 40 student athletes, some of them are going to score better than others. And those 8, it's just not as likely. There's not as many, except we do see exceptions. We see some smaller teams that are very, very dominant because they've got very good riders. But that becomes just the ability of the team and the scoring unit at the size that it really should be. So it would almost, the equivalent would be like if my, basketball team had 20 people and your basketball team had 5, and we went out and played. Like, it's pretty likely that my basketball team of 20 is probably going to do better than your basketball team of 5, even if we're just playing 5 at a time. So I can just keep subbing out my 5 and you're just playing the same 5 over and over. It's going to be pretty easy to wear yours out. It's a poor analogy probably, but my limitations with sports ball are vast. But this is all about just creating that ability for every team to feel like they've got a chance at not just making the podium individually, but making the podium as a team. The team is really, when we look at the heart of things with what NICA is based on, that collegiate scoring model from collegiate cycling, it's about team performance. And so we want to see that all the teams are kind of equal in their ability to perform well and be competitive. Another aspect that I know, Brian, you wanted to talk about was going to be seeding and the earned lap cutoff time. Two things that, we always have questions about going into the first race. So you want to speak to those?
Yeah, we'll do seeding fairly similar to last season, particularly going into that first race. We will seed first by points. So data we have from riders from last season, we've got points from last season. We'll rank them into the call-up list basically by their points. And then for the riders we don't have data for, we will seed rank by coach prioritization. If everyone remembers that from last season who was here, we were about to ask you, hey, rank your riders from slowest or fastest to slowest, and then we will just random seed them into those categories. And that, so people are generally familiar with that, and we'll do that generally again, but I'll put one caveat, and thank you to Jim Otto and Phil Watson for taking a very hard look at the data to do probably one caveat that we'll want to follow up with folks on the coaches call, Shawn, to our multi-field categories. So same as last year, a lot of our boys categories, high school 3, high school 2 boys, huge, 100 or more currently registered for the season. We could have upwards of 3 fields in those categories. And the data analysis that Jim and Phil put together shows me that essentially if we seeded or like put those riders in the fields by their points from last season, we would have ability all over the place. We would have riders in field 3 much faster than riders in field 1 because we did a calculation on last year's data. Basically, we calculated a 4-mile average lap time for every rider in the league. When you rank by that, that's how we're going to break out the fields. So we'll go 4-mile average lap time to break into fields. Once they're in the field, then we will seed by their points from last season to be in accordance with the handbook. And when you look at the data, the passing just goes way down in between those fields. And folks that were with us last season know, we had some challenges with, inner field, inner category passing sometimes. This is just a much better way to do it for that first race. So again, we're doing one more turn. I'm on the line with the timing team this week, as a matter of fact, to go through call-ups and seeding. And I think by coach's call, Shawn, we'll be able to lay that out for everyone. Just give them the basis behind that first call-up list of how that's being generated.
And to follow up on that, one of the things that came up in a call that I had with a specific team as we were working through their scoring unit, sub-scoring unit questions was about that random rider call up. And I assured them they're not going to have to do it by their sub-scoring units. It's just basically like your composite team. You just rank those riders and we're just going to be calling. It's not like we're going with everybody's a separate team now. We'll still do the same basic team structure. We'll call for the randoms and you just send them as you would normally rank them regardless of what sub-scoring unit they're on. So there's no need to be that complex and complicated with it.
Yep. So yeah, just again, bear with us, everyone. New categories, but data informed. I think it's just a better way to rack and stack everyone in at least the first race, and then races 2 and beyond go back to points. Because we'll have points for most everyone at that point. If we don't by that point, it just goes to the random back of that category field, and that's what we'll do. Earn lap cutoff time, I know can be kind of an emotionally fraught topic for folks, but let me just give a quick clarification. Again, there's not a ton in the handbook that says why they exist or even how to calculate them. But they essentially exist to ensure that we are abiding by the duration guidelines set forth in the handbook. Each category has a certain limit of time they are supposed to be on the course. And you can find those, particularly for North Carolina, because we're a little bit different and I'd say more liberal than the NICA handbook, in Appendix B of the handbook. So the North Carolina exceptions you can find are duration limits per category. Middle school, 45 minutes, and our lower high school categories, 70 minutes, and up to 110 for varsity. But all those durations limits are in there. So we essentially, for those multi-lap categories, if we believe they're not going to finish within that duration limit, there's an earned lap cutoff time, meaning you come off the course before that last lap. But I want to reframe the conversation, Shawn. I want to reframe the conversation and say you are still competing, and you need to compete to make sure you do your last lap. But even if you come off, you still score points, and you're still, you will place within your category. Most leagues, and this is great having Jim Otto on your team and Phil Watson to talk these things through. And Jim did this for us last season. And you always say the discretionary part of the Nike handbook, but he did it for good reasons. Most leagues will take your duration limits and say it's a 3-lap race. They will divide by 3, take 2 chunks of those times, and set the cutoff time. Pretty simplistic way of doing it. Jim actually looks at the data we have on our categories, what they're anticipated to finish based on the course length, and then he sets kind of like a 10% fudge factor on top of that. We call it the bad day cutoff time. So we'll do that same type of thing this season. Look in the flyer, the wave category, the cutoff time will be established, the estimated duration. I guess the message right now, Shawn, and we can reinforce the coaches call, is the coaches, you need to brief your riders on what that cutoff time is so they can aim for that for the race. And I think we will do a better job as a staff to announce that at the start line. Hey, you're doing 2 laps, everyone. Cutoff time is this. And do maybe some finish line management to make sure that's better communicated and better enforced with those cutoff times towards the end of those races. So yeah, we've been looking at that. I've got a draft policy written. Yes, sorry, Shawn, I use Google Bard to help me write it. I just, like anything I need to write, I immediately go to an AI tool. But just so it's clear for everyone, why they exist, how we calculate them. So it's very clear to everyone. That's what we want to get on the table today.
So that was a lot of very in the weeds, I think, policy and things like that. But Chelle, you get to talk about something that I think is a lot more fun, and that's the spring giveaway campaign. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I hope it will be a lot more fun. A lot more fun than policy, but also a lot more fun maybe than our approach in the past has been. I actually asked to kind of take this on because I want to make it something that's fun for our league. So we used to have the Kakalaki Cup where our whole league came together on event weekend and just did this big silly thing together. And everybody really enjoyed that. So I'm kind of trying to incorporate that into this in my approach. Couple changes happening since this is something that is raising money for our teams as well as the league. I'm really hoping this can help benefit our teams a lot. So campaign is going to launch on Friday, March 1st. And something that we are doing that's new, we're going to try the approach of adding paper ticket options. So we're going to do paper ticket distribution at Browns Creek. Head coaches can pick those up at the registration tent when they pick up their race plates. And you can choose as a team how you want to distribute those paper tickets. If you want to do a certain number per student athlete, or you just want to let the ones who really want to sell try to sell them all. You can decide what's going to work best for you, or if you don't want to sell them, that's your choice. But hoping that leveraging that option can maybe help some teams sell a little more. Where when you sell paper tickets, there'll also be a QR code. So if folks don't want to buy them, you can show them that if they want to buy them online still. So that is an option. We're also going to have it track student athletes as well. So student athletes can see which ones have sold the most in the league when they look on the campaign page online. The campaign is going to end on midnight, Tuesday, May 28th. And then we are going to try doing the giveaway in person at our end of season festival on Sunday, June 2nd. So hopefully we've got some folks present who are going to win some cool stuff. We're going to have several additional prizes to what we've had in the past up for grabs. So hopefully be a lot of fun with that, but we're also going to incorporate into our event weekends after that paper ticket distribution has happened. We're going to do some in-person, just silly events. So The plan now is, say, the top 5 teams that have raised the most money in the week before that event on the online campaign page. They get to take part in some sort of silly event that we're planning. So anything from a pie smash with our league staff. I'm looking at 2 people right now that I'm volunteering to do that. 3 actually, myself. I'll volunteer myself. So silly things like that. Just different silly competitions that folks can come together and just as a league have fun on our event weekend. So that's going to be incorporated into those events as well. So all the information will go out to everybody, but just trying to make it something fun to keep people motivated and help raise money for our teams in the league. So yeah.
Awesome. That sounds great. Brian, we're kind of coming to the end of this, but we've got some things that we need to remind everybody about. We got some important dates that are coming up, and the first one is category petitions for Crankin at the Creek, correct?
Yeah, that's right. 23 February. It's kind of that 2 Fridays before the event weekend. Need all your category petitions in, so student athletes are in the correct category for Crankin at the Creek. Certainly, you can submit petitions after Crankin at the Creek, based on those race results and the like. But you have to get them in the right category before we need those in by 23 February. Give us the weekend to turn them, and then we seed those fields the next week.
And on the 24th of February, there's going to be a trail work day that you need to contact Dave Droke. Chelle, do you have contact information for Dave?
Yes. It's actually listed in our Teen Trail Corps Coaches Resource folder. There's a document in there that actually has the contact information for all of our committee members. So if you hop on the website, click on that link, and it lists all of their contact information there, so you can find it anytime.
Or you'll be able to see the contact information in the summaries for this video and also this podcast if you are viewing it or listening to it. Others, event registration. So February 25th is going to be the last day for the season discount package. That's kind of the all in, like I'm going to do it all discount. You don't have to do that. You can absolutely register for events up to 1 week ahead. So the weekend prior to an event weekend is going to be the cutoff time. Things happen, things come up, we understand. The thing to understand though is if you do the all-in package, that there are no refunds. So if things come up, there's not going to be the ability to get a refund for those things. So if you are more fluid with your plans, you might want to just pay as you go, but that is up to you. And then just a reminder that you're registering for the entire weekend. So any student athlete that wants to be doing any of the activities on a weekend up to and including the race, they are going to need to register for the event weekend. We will be giving wristbands, and so those wristbands will need to be present on the student athletes so that we can verify that they are there and have registered and are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the other thing that I like to remind people is to please talk with your parents and let them know that unless they are coaches, there's no riding available to them on that weekend. And I've had I've had issues in the past with parents that were bringing bikes and getting on course when they shouldn't have been, and just various things. And instead of making this a negative, make it into a positive. This is the way for adults to become involved with your team as coaches. So if they want to come to a race weekend and they want to ride with the team or ride with their student athlete, they should be a coach. Even if it's just to help you out on the race weekend, that's tremendous. The more hands you have in this environment that's got lots of things going on, the better off you're going to be. So just say, hey, if you want to do this, like we would love to have you. You can remember that there is no cutoff date for coach registration. They can do it anytime. They'll just need to be a fully licensed coach, and they'll need to be able to pick up a plate whenever they come to the event that shows that they're fully registered as a coach, as a level 1 coach. So turn it into a positive, make it a recruitment tool, and maybe you will get a coach that wants to continue on with your team. And then last but not least is trail week. So our week of trail work. And where are we at with our hours right now, Chelle? We're like halfway, over halfway. I think we're over halfway.
We're at 1,406 hours already. So well on our way.
And our goal is 3,000 hours for the season. And I feel like we're going to easily break that. But this week, from March 18th through the 24th, this is the week that we want to see as many of our student athletes and teams involved in some type of teen trail core trail work activity, so that we can log a massive amount of hours just in this 1 week and have a huge impact on the trails in North Carolina. And this is, are we still in the year of the trail? It's hard. Like, I don't even know what year we're in. We're still so early in the year, but this is a massive thing for our league, but just our state as well. Like, there's trails everywhere. And so getting our student athletes involved in Trail Week is going to be huge. So if you want more information on this, Leonard Van Hoos is your guy. Contact him, and he's going to be able to point you in the right direction. If you are active in your local trail advocacy groups, so for me, it's the Northwest North Carolina Mountain Bike Alliance. We actually had a trail day scheduled for our local trail the week prior to this trail week. And I contacted the person who organizes that, and I said, hey, if you'll make it 1 week later, like, that will fit perfectly with what we're doing and planning, and we can make a really big push for it. And they were like, no problem. Like, this is not set in stone. So it was an easy fix to make. So this is a great opportunity for you to kind of make some inroads with your local advocacy group, and then put a lot of boots on the ground in a very short period of time and have a major, massive impact in our state. Anything you want to add to that?
I will say I forgot that Dave now has a league email address, so I do know Dave's email and Leonard's, Dave or Leonard at northcarolinamtb.org. So it's also, we have a trail work calendar of events, which is in that Teen Trail Core Coach folder. So if you're trying to log Teen Trail Core hours and you're looking for some opportunities, we're trying hard to list any opportunities that we find in local advocacy groups and SORBA chapters on that calendar for anybody to see. And Dave's email is also listed on that trail work opportunity on that calendar as well.
All right. I am leading off the dad jokes. So this is our way of ending every show. And this dad joke I got from a student athlete on yesterday's adventure route recon, while we were waiting for another student athlete to repair their chain and check the box on one of their passport activities, which double win. But like, I appreciate that Trek allows the kids to knock off the chain repair at an adventure kiosk at some of these events. It's much better to repair a chain like sitting there having fun than it is like on the side of the trail, but knocked it out, no problem. So we were trying to keep ourselves active, and we were like, oh, share jokes. So this is my joke. What do you call a theme park for cows? Do you have a guess, Brian? I see that you're unmuting.
No, I'm going moo something, bovine, something.
It's an amusement park.
There it is. Knew the moo was going to get in there somewhere. So good on your student athlete. Very good. Passing the time on the trail. Very good.
So what's your joke?
Oh, are you going to me next? Not Chelle.
Unless Chelle
close us out.
Has Maddie slipped you a joke yet?
I was ahead of the game compared to normal. I looked on Google before the end of this recording, during the middle of it. How many apples can you grow on a tree?
Okay, I don't know.
All of them.
Okay, Brian, this better be something special.
No, it's gonna fail miserably probably, but and I'm gonna make people wait for it because I have quite the lead up to this, but it's passing information, so it might be worth it. We just had Groundhog Day, right? And I can't even remember like what that says for us for winter, longer, whatever. But we are about to get into Groundhog Day. You know what the season is like, but I want to use it as a way of, how I intend to communicate to the league what's going on, and I'm changing. Oh, shocker, Russell's changing things again. But just to let everyone know. So the 2 Thursdays before the event weekend, I'm going to release kind of that event focused single track times. That is going to include a lot of the information that typically you would find in one of our flyers, but not necessarily something you need to print off and bring with you to the event itself. That's a real flyer, and that's what we're going to do this season. Our event flyer is going to be about a 2-pager. It's going to have the schedule on it. It's going to have the key things that coach wants to print off and bring with him or her out to the event. So 2 Thursdays before, we'll publish single track times with, hey, here's what's coming up at that event. And that's in advance of registration, just like we talked about. That very next day, Friday, petition cutoff. That next weekend, that Sunday, registration closes. That Monday after that, we start putting the call-up list together, and we have our staff meeting. We have the staff call to go through what's coming up that weekend. So we are prepared by Wednesday to host that town hall. And we'll do that again this season. So everyone start marking your calendars that Wednesday before the event. We'll dial up Zoom and we'll walk folks through that schedule, walk folks through the venue map. Here's what to expect. And then on Thursday, weather call, just like normal, yay or nay. And Shawn, I intend to push out kind of that weather note through TeamSnap. Everyone will get a note Thursday around noon. Hey, we're a go, or we've got to make a change for the weekend. And then yours truly, anyway, we pack up the Russell family truckster and we start driving towards, that event. Awesomeness, Saturday, Sunday. But then what happens? Tuesday coaches call afterwards. Hey, coaches, how'd it go? How could we improve? The next Wednesday, staff meeting again. What'd the coaches say? How do we get better for the next one? And then the next day, Thursday, event report goes out and the single track times for the next one. So that movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray just keeps getting up and hitting the alarm clock and he's walking through the same thing. So it's all types of awesome, but we're about to get into that season. But did you know that Puxatawny Phil is in fact a mountain biker? And how does Puxatawny Phil know it's time to go off that feature in front of him?
I have no idea.
His coach tells him to go for it. And so, people were just, thanks, Russell, for making me wait that whole time to get the.
That was a journey.
Thing.
That was, yeah. Wow.
Hey, if you've stuck with this podcast at this point, congratulations. Good on you.
And seriously, if you stuck with this podcast for this long, then you seriously need to subscribe if you have not already. And we really want to make sure that everyone understands, like, we want this not just to be going to people who already know about us, but when you subscribe, you actually are kind of bringing us forward, and so that we get put in front of more people who are looking at YouTube who may not know anything about who we are and what we do. And this is their intro to us, bad dad jokes and all, but this will help them to kind of discover and help our league grow. And ultimately our league growing is our goal, because the more kids we have on bikes, the more awesome we're doing and the more awesome we can do. And we really appreciate all your support. But please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel.
You need a dad joke counter on the YouTube that's like this many dad jokes told.
I'll have to figure out what I can do. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And I will see you later.
If not at Browns Creek, since our next podcast is after that one. So here we go. Giddy up.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night.